All right, joining me now to talk politics is Lieutenant Governor Bill Halter. Governor, good to have you back on the program.
Roby, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Thanks so much.
Let's begin with your political baby, the Arkansas Lottery. It's pulled in more than $132 million since its launch in October. It's far beyond revenue expectations. I know you're going to be pleased by that, but what do you attribute this level of play beyond the most liberal projections? What do you attribute it to?
Well, we always thought that our projection of $100 million a year net for scholarships was being conservative. I think there were some other folks that didn't believe that thought that was being aggressive. But we're seeing right now that the lottery is producing at a rate for scholarships of above $125 million a year. Now, there's no telling whether that'll level off or what, but we clearly are off to a great start. I think that to your question of what's accounting for it, I think we did see a lot of dollars that were leaving Arkansas before and going to surrounding states. I think we've seen those dollars return to the state. I think there's been a lot of excitement. I'm very interested to see if sales of Powerball tickets go up even more now that we know that we've sold a $25 million winning Powerball ticket in Arkansas. And then I guess just last week also there was a scratch-off ticket that returned $500,000 to a woman from Rogers. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes forward. But I think you know, and we've talked about this, that for me, the lottery is a funding mechanism. The most important thing that's going on from the lottery perspective is that it's a funding mechanism for scholarships. And first, middle, and last, for me, this has always been about scholarships. It's always been about helping regular Arkansas families and their students have access to higher education, have access to the opportunity to pursue the American dream. And you know, the fact that we got started in late September and have already, according to the Lottery Commission, already generated over $33 million for scholarships, we're well ahead of the pace here, and I'm really excited about it, but even more excited about the prospect of having those students this fall.
And just this week, we've seen how this one-stop shop scholarship application portal is going to work. Now, since we've missed on the high end of lottery revenue, I'm wondering, should we be afraid that we may underestimate the demand for scholarship money?
Well, I think you'd have to talk to the folks at the Department of Higher Education about their forecast and their projections. I think that they're trying to be conservative. But I would say that in this first year, we're going to be generating tremendous revenue, and the revenue that we will be generating in the first year and the revenue that's being generated in the 9 months that the lottery is up and running before the first scholarship is awarded, that's going to give us a very generous cushion. So there's no way that in the first couple of years of the program that the lottery scholarship expenditures will wind up exceeding what we have in revenues and reserves.
Yeah, I've seen those Department of Higher Education projections that show that we might not sustain those levels by around years 3 or 4 or 5.
Right.
So how do we guard against making commitments that we can't keep in the long run?
Well, I think you have to bear in mind that first, these projections that have been put together, I think by the reckoning of the legislators, they're conservative. But on top of that, if you look at how these funds are likely to accrue, even with very generous scholarship levels, you're going to see very significant surpluses build up in the early years, and that does provide you with a cushion. Now, in addition to all that, I think that everybody believes that we will establish a reserve level. But the other thing, Roby, that I think everybody needs to realize is that the legislature will have the capability, now that they're coming in annual sessions, they'll have the ability each and every year to adjust and to make sure that all of this is in balance. But for these first few years, it would be extraordinarily difficult, probably just mathematically very, very difficult to have the scholarships exceed the actual amount of revenues and surpluses that we're already accruing.
Now, do you agree with the $5,000 amount for 4-year schools, the $2,500 amount for 2-year schools that's been suggested? I mean, after all, we are having state budget troubles. That's likely going to lead to some budget cuts. Higher ed is certainly on the table.
Well, let me just say that not only do I agree about the $5,000 and $2,500 scholarships amounts, we have been pushing that from this office for well over a year. And our initial forecasts were that was going to be very readily achievable with $100 million a year in lottery revenues. And it looks to me like now that the lottery revenues are likely to be greater than $100 million a year. So we're still strongly in supportive of the $5,000 and the $2,500 scholarship amounts. And even at that level, Roby, if you look at those calculations, in the first few years, there's still going to be a big buildup of scholarship surplus funds.
I get to ask you the question that everyone else is asking you in hopes that you've maybe changed your answer.
Okay.
Are you going to run for the U.S. Senate in 2010?
Well, Roby, let me say this. There are a number of folks who have encouraged me to look at other options, including that race. And I listen respectfully to those folks. I think I owe it to them to listen respectfully. But my emphasis and my focus has been in these last few months raising money for re-election. And so the spare time that we have outside of official duties has been spent doing that.
So will you rule out a run for the U.S. Senate in 2010?
You know, the interesting thing about that is questions like that always lead to 5 or 6 other questions. So I'm just gonna stand on the statement that I gave you with respect to that. I appreciate the interest that other folks have in this. They've been generous in their comments. They've been generous in their compliments, and it certainly is nice for folks to be willing to hope that you run for a higher office. But you're very good, Roby, and you know I know if I answered any other questions for you, you'd have 5 more.
All right, I'm going to put you down as a maybe. Now, on another political note, I want you to explain for me the nature of this relationship between
Sure.
the SEIU. It's a labor union that's reportedly agreed to help you pay off your campaign debt. Well, what do you think their reasoning for doing it is, if not a Senate run? I mean, because for them to take interest in a lieutenant governor's debt in a non-union state like Arkansas, that's a bit unusual.
Well, you know, I think I never want to put words in other people's mouth or ascribe motives to them. I think the political director of SEIU did make a statement about why they were doing it. It was a complimentary statement about me having, in their view, very bright future prospects. And I'm grateful for the support. And, you know, importantly, the support for retiring my previous campaign debt has come not just from SEIU, but many other folks. And, you know, in the main, it has been from Arkansans who have been very gracious and very supportive. We did have a big campaign debt. I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but I think it's fair to say that well over 70%, and probably much higher than that, of that debt has been retired with contributions from Arkansans, and you know, and I'm grateful for that. I mean, you know that I have a young family. We're looking forward to college expenses for them and all sorts of other things, and so I'm grateful when folks support the effort to get that campaign debt behind us, and I'm grateful for it. And as for the motives of the people doing it, I think their motivation is probably, you know, best left expressed in their own words rather than mine.
All right, fair enough. Lieutenant Governor Bill Halter, great to have you as always. Thank you for your time.
Roby, thank you. I always enjoy being with you.